YouTube. Good afternoon, good evening, guys. Welcome back. We are live. It is Wednesday, so we are live on YouTube. I'll give you guys a second to hop on here. It's Dr. Pinesett, the Premed productivity expert, and I had an off day today. I was post-call, so I got my home attire on today, but welcome everybody. And today we're going to be talking about how you can maximize your MCAT score. That's the topic for today. Hello. So I wanted to talk about this topic today because I see that people are getting their MCAT scores back. Some of you guys who were in the late freight taking your MCAT, and so you're getting your MCATs back and you're not getting the scores you wanted, or you are getting the scores you wanted. And I got great news this week. One of the students I work with, one of my mentees, she just rocked the MCAT. She sent me a text as soon as she got back her her score, and she scored. She was really disappointed because we were shooting for a 90th percentile, and I told her she could get 90th percentile, and she was doubting it, but she was hoping to get that. She got her score back, and she set me up, you guys. She said, "Oh, I'm so disappointed. My score came back. I didn't get 90th percentile." I was like, "Well, what'd you get?" She said, "I got 89th percentile." I was like, "Oh gosh, okay, terrible." But so big congratulations to her. But on the flip side of that, I was seeing a lot of people's Facebook messages and different things saying that their MCAT score wasn't where they wanted to be. So let's talk about how you can maximize your MCAT score, and also if your MCAT score wasn't what it should have been. Let's talk about why it wasn't that, why it wasn't as high as you expected and as high as you could have gotten. And I think a quote that sums it up. So I'm preparing for a talk. I'm doing a couple days of lecturing at UCLA this week. So I hate kind of presenting the same material over and over again. So I'm creating 8 hours of new content for UCLA to go lecture up there this week. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is how you beat procrastination and how you can kind of maximize your productivity. And so I'm reading and pulling together like resources and notes from what I found. And one of the quotes I found that I want to talk about that relates to MCAT is from the richest man in Babylon. Thank you guys for commenting on this fade right here. This is Jabri. This is at FlaccoVision on Instagram, who puts it down. Always looking sharp, guys. So if you guys are in San Diego, at FlaccoVision, I'm gonna shoot him out, give him a shout out there. But the quote from richest man in Babylon that kind of struck me and made me want to talk about this topic tonight is that in the book it talks about how wealth follows. So wealth goes. Wealth follows where energy goes. Wealth follows where energy goes. And so many of you guys can't figure out why you can't get over the hump on the MCAT. Oh, I took the course. I took the $1,000, Kaplan course. I took the $1,000 Princeton review. I took the $1,000. Why couldn't I get the score? I did exactly what they said to do. I couldn't do it, right? Or you study alone and you try to do these things. I'm smart. Why can't I do well on the test? And a lot of times, guys, we don't recognize just that simple fact. Wealth follows where energy goes. And so many times we sabotage ourselves by not putting our energy where it needs to be and focusing in. And the girl I just talked about who got her score back, got 89th percentile, she listened to me. I was so excited about this. Some of you students won't listen. You guys are impatient. And I said, listen, take a second. Take the entire spring off. Don't do anything else. Don't work. Don't go to school. Right? Save up, plan for this to come. We talked about this last year. Plan for this to come so you can wipe everything off your plate and just focus on the MCAT. And that's what she did. She worked hard, saved up some cash. She was able to sit down and just focus on the MCAT. She studied for the MCAT for a couple months, and then she blew it out of the water. And it's a testament to the hard work she put in. She put in tons and tons of hours and hard work in getting at the material, but she was able to do that because she set herself up to put her energy where she really wanted it to go. What really matters. And a lot of you guys will email me and say, listen, I'm just graduating right now. I got to take the MCAT sometime next year, right? And then I'm going to apply, but I want to do this research project. I want to do this job thing. I want to get in this whatever. And you're doing all these 1,000 things. And a simple question I ask people is like, well, how are you going to do all those things and do the MCAT? Oh, well, I'm going to have, a couple hours set aside for the MCAT. And it's like, well, then you're going to get a couple hours worth of test score. As opposed to if you really put the energy in and the focus in, because that last little bit of research, and this is what you guys don't get. I keep saying on these videos, ask yourself, what is the purpose? Let that guide you into where you should go. And so many guys are so confused and so distracted by all this nonsense you hear there and all these other things that you're missing the basics. What's the purpose? Every activity you should do, you should ask yourself, right? Here's another line I like to say all the time is, what is the best use of my time right now? So a lot of you guys will ask me, how do I get so much stuff done, right? I get so much stuff done because I'm always asking myself, I'm prioritizing, what is the number one thing I should do with my time right now? What is the most important thing? What is the most fruitful, impactful way I can spend the next 5 minutes? And I don't spend it some other way. And a lot of you guys forget to ask yourself that question. So instead of saying, okay, well, what would be the most productive way for me to spend the next 3 months? What project, if I did it, would have the biggest impact on my acceptance? And you guys are confused whether you should volunteer or study for the MCAT. And in a vacuum, when I say this to you, it sounds ridiculous. You're like, well, of course I should study for the MCAT. But how many of you guys out there are choosing these other things that are barely going to give you a bump on your application over actually sitting down and focusing and getting in to study on your MCAT? What up, C. Charles? I just looked down and saw that, right? Think about it, right? Because so many of you guys are messing this up. You can't figure out why your MCAT is not on point. Your MCAT's not on point because you didn't put the time in. And I just erased it from my board. So I'm going to post, everyone go to my Instagram tonight, at Dominate Premed. I'm going to post a picture. So I developed the MCAT course. For you guys who don't know, my MCAT course is amazing. It's how to dominate the MCAT without an expensive prep class. It's $99. It's amazing. It's incredible. But the course is amazing. And the reason it's amazing is because the way I design courses is not to say, okay, listen, I want someone to score great on the MCAT. I don't start there. I say, well, people want to score well. And there's a jet flying over. Hold on, guys. I say, people want to score well on the MCAT. I start there. I don't say, right? I say, well, what are the barriers? What is preventing them from scoring high on the MCAT, right? And with all my courses, I do this. So I have a studying course. What is preventing people from studying and getting the scores they want? How do you do these things, right? I say, what is preventing? What are the barriers? And then I trickle down my courses. I do a flow chart, and I say, okay, here are the major barriers, okay? And then I come up with solutions for each single individual barrier. And because I do that, all my classes are super thorough, and at the end, there's no excuse to get anything wrong because you have perfect certainty and clarity. And so what I encourage you guys to do is do this with yourselves. Ask yourself, well, hey, something didn't go right. Okay, it didn't go right. Why didn't it go right? What could I have done differently? And even better, before something problematic happens, like with the MCAT, what is keeping me from scoring high on the MCAT? Before you even go to sit down, what are the barriers to studying high on the MCAT? And if you can figure out the barriers first and then trickle down, you'll find your way. But in this diagram, I'll post on my Instagram, you'll see on the thing, the number one thing that I thought was holding students back in the MCAT was that they were so focused on the time spent. And I say that because you guys always email me asking the number one question, right? What's the number one question people ask about MCAT? Well, how much time should I spend on the MCAT? And my answer is always, it's all relative because it's the quality of that time, right? And of course you need to spend lots of time, but there are multiple factors. And the two biggest factors in this flow chart you're gonna see on my Instagram is that one side was time spent. So I said your MCAT score is directly proportional to the time spent and then the quality of that time spent. And everyone focuses so hard on the time spent that they neglect the quality of time spent. And so what I did in my course was I laid out how you can maximize the quality of your time and then at the same time maximize the amount of time you spent, but the quality of that time. And therefore the scores get higher. And so I encourage you guys to really sit down when you guys are thinking about your MCAT and just figure out what your barriers are, because everyone's barriers are a little bit different, but the big ones are the same. But is your barrier going to be reading comprehension? And I got super long email or I don't know if it was a comment or something from somebody talking about how the MCAT was blatantly biased against people who have poor reading comprehension skills and that it's a test of reading comprehension and not science knowledge. And they act like that's a valid argument for not doing well on the MCAT. And I would rewind that and again say to you what I said in the beginning. Wealth follows where energy goes. So to say that I scored poorly on the MCAT because I had poor reading comprehension and that's not fair is a loser's mentality. That's what losers say. The winner, the person who wants to get to medical school, who really, really wants it, who needs to be a doctor, says instead, the test is all about reading comprehension. I'm poor at reading comprehension, so I better get myself in gear and figure out how to read better. That's what you got to do, right? Energy, right? Wealth will follow. So if you put your energy into reading better, then you're going to be a better MCAT scorer. Don't just send me an email saying it's unfair. I can never score. That's a loser's mentality, right? And Felipe said it right there, right? Hashtag winning mentality. So does that make sense to people? Like that, if that, like this video right now, if that kind of makes sense to you, what I'm talking about, and that your guys' MCAT scores can be so much higher, but you're not looking at it objectively and asking yourself, forget the blame stuff, forget the, I don't know what to do. Create certainty in your processes and clarity by simply saying, where am I putting my energy, first of all, right? But what is preventing me from getting to what I want to get to? What are the roadblocks, and then how do I overcome those roadblocks instead of just saying, oh, roadblocks, stop, run away, MCAT's hard, it's racially insensitive because for those people who are English second languagers, it's discriminatory. Of course it is. 100% I acknowledge that, right? It's like when I posted the video about Caribbean medical schools and people said, well, America is so uppity. Yes, America is uppity. I'm not saying that I'm uppity, but I'm just telling you how people look at it. People in America don't respect other countries as much as they should, but it's just a fact they don't. So why would you put yourself in a position to get looked at as an inferior candidate when you are in actuality not inferior? Why would you put yourself in a position to score inferior on the MCAT because you put in inferior energy, inferior effort, inferior focus? Because you were so divided between a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. Because every single applicant that applies to medical school has volunteering. So I'm glad that you spent 40 hours a week volunteering during your MCAT studying, but that 40 hours a week is not going to get you into medical school because your MCAT score sucks. So who did you cheat? You cheated yourself. So that's the takeaway from today, guys. Get that, understand that. If you want to maximize your MCAT score, quite simply, make sure you're putting the energy and the focus in that the MCAT deserves. That test is super hard. It's not an easy exam. So don't put yourself in a position to be sabotaged. And a lot of my students, so like the girl I was talking about, my students who I work with, they are very successful. And I don't cherry pick. I pick students who are just passionate, who are energetic, who are determined, who are going to get at it. But the number one thing, the reason I'm so effective working with students is I get them out of their own way. I just create clarity of vision where it's like, oh, I got it. We're not going to have any excuses. We have no excuses, just dominate. That's the very first thing. We sit down and say, As soon as I hear excuses, I get upset. People see I'm a fiery guy. I'll get upset at people when I meet with them. I don't want to hear your excuse. I don't want to hear this kind of stuff. I want to hear solutions. If you ain't got a solution, you got to shut up and I'll talk for a little bit. That's what I tell people. Because I'm not going to sit here and listen to you complain about how the world has just poo-pooed on your head for the whole first 20 years of your life. I want to hear about how you're trying to change that process. And so if you can do this to yourself, you can be your own pre-med expert, right? Encourage yourself, be confident in yourself, and focus yourself. Not on the problem, but on the solution. I got a barrier, I overcome it. I got an issue, I overcome it, right? And what am I? Something just flashed to me right there. Hold on. So see, someone's not listening to me right here. So Ashley T, you're about to be kicked off our thread. I'm going to block you right now because Ashley T just asked, do you think 5 weeks is enough time to study for the MCAT? I don't think she's getting what I'm throwing out here, guys. Oh, Ashley, you just came in. Okay. All right, I won't block you right now then, Ashley. You're going to have to go back and watch the beginning of this. You didn't catch the beginning. Anyway, so I was going to get upset. I'm like, man, I'm on here and people are not listening. So if you came on late, I apologize. Okay, so I can't stop laughing. That's funny as heck to me. I told you I'm fiery. Do you see how it just happened right there? I'm crazy. So anyway, what I was trying to say was the whole point of this is if you want to score well in the MCAT, the very first thing you have to do is make sure that you put yourself in position to do well. Okay? You put yourself in position where your energy and your focus can be where it needs to be on the MCAT. And if any of you out there are considering taking your MCAT soon, or you're going to be taking your MCAT, the most important thing you have to do is prioritize it. Forget everything else. If you can, the number one thing that's going to increase your score, if you can, is get rid of every other obligation you can. Every other obligation you can, get rid of it, okay? Get rid of it. If you don't need it, get rid of it because it's not going to make a difference. That MCAT is crucial to your admission. So I want you guys all to do well. and get in. So focus on that MCAT, guys. If you get what I'm saying, give me a like right now as we're at 15-minute mark. Give me a like. And Ashley, now that you're on here late, you can give me a like anyway because I didn't boot you off of here, Ashley T. I'm sorry, that was so funny. It's so funny. So funny. Yeah. All right. So let's see what we got here in terms of questions. So I think someone had a really good point. Someone sent me an email. It was a mom, actually. It was a mom of a student sent me an email and said she loves my stuff, but she thinks it's very hard to find the answers she needs because I sit here and I answer questions for you guys for an hour on these live feeds. And so what we're going to do is going to make it a little bit challenging, but it's going to make it easier for people to find the supportive mom, not helicopter mom, supportive mom. It's going to make people easier to find the questions or the answers to the questions they want. So what I'm going to do from now on in these feeds is that I want questions that are pertinent to the theme of the day or what I'm talking about. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a second video after the first video on Wednesdays. And then that second video is going to be more of a free-for-all, but we're going to try to stay in like somewhat of a bucket of things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take more time and answer questions in a little greater depth. I kind of rush through things on here because I'm trying to get to more questions. But I'm going to take a step back and try to really dive in onto people's questions. So it's a way that we can make this YouTube channel a little bit more organized for people to get at some question and answers. So I'm going to go back through the answers right now, or the questions, and we're going to see what people have said specifically about the MCAT. And if you have MCAT questions, right, and how to maximize your score, things about that, right, and about focusing your energy, this is the time to ask those kind of questions. So, Caitlin, what is up? Sam, what is up? Eggs, yes, my fade is super fresh. Again, Flacco Vision, shout out. Hello, Isa. Hello, Hannah. Hello, Amiko. Vanessa, what is up? Woomy. Saloni, Belize. Brady, what is up? Igioma, hey, hey. Igioma's a new enrollment to my courses. I'm excited. Travis, what is up? Okay, so Dan in. So that's a good question, Dan, but for another video. So ask that on the next video. And then Kellermeister, that's a good question about ROTC. I have a video coming about military stuff, so hold up for that video. Charles, your first video, welcome, welcome. Jabari, what's up? See Charles. So Adrian says, hey, Dr. Pines, I need your help with my accelerated A and P course. If you need help, get on my website. Get in my study course. It helps people quickly, ASAP, improve their studying. Anatomy and physiology is super easy, but you have to have a plan, a way to go about it, and in that course, I teach you that. Premedproductivity.com if you don't know the website already, guys, if this is your first time with me. When do you suggest one should start studying for the MCAT if going right from undergrad to medical school? So Cheyenne, this is actually that question. So when do you suggest someone should start studying for the MCAT if going right from undergrad to medical school is actually answered in my video, the #1 tip for acing the MCAT. So if you go to that video is all about when you should start studying to do well in the MCAT. And for those of you guys who've been on here for a long time, you know the answer to that. But check that video out. Question for later. I'm taking the MCAT. This is Caitlin. I'm taking the MCAT July 21st, and I feel like I'm rushing my app. I know that even for DOs, they open up apps in June, but I don't have the best GPA, a little above 3.0. Should I take my time and possibly do a 1-year post-bac or try and go for it this year and hope for the best? So Caitlin, that's actually the question. Caitlin, I want you to copy paste that question into the next video. I'm actually gonna answer that question because that's a perfectly timed question because it's the end of June right now. And a lot of you guys are asking yourselves those same things. Like, hey, I'm kind of in this, is it too late to apply boat? And really, we'll talk about some specifics in terms of judging when it's too late and if it's your year to actually apply. So Caitlin, great question. Ask it in like 5 minutes when we get off of here. Okay, Jabari, I'm trying to get into a post-bac program because I don't have any science courses. However, if I don't get accepted into schools in my area, would you recommend taking community college courses or taking? So that's not MCAT related, but ask it in another video. Britt, thank you for saying I'm amazing. Thank you for tuning in. Save the drama for your mama. So true. Jabari, it is possible to sit down with me and go over your GPA and create a plan for success. I have a coaching waitlist currently, but that may be opening up in the near future this summer. So you can get on that waitlist at my website, premedproductivity.com. Go to the coaching tab. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Kasim. I appreciate it. You're very welcome. Ariana said, just bought your MCAT course and I'm literally going to start studying for my exam different. Thanks so much. I made a new schedule that will help me work and study at least 5 hours a day. Outstanding. That's what I like to hear. Ariana just enrolled, I think you enrolled like 3 days ago. Because I can see people say, I think Ariana enrolled 3 days ago and already she's taking this course and she's going to completely change the way she's studying. And she's already created a better schedule that allows her to study at least 5 hours a day. I love it. Jason, did you ever check in your Facebook group? Sorry, but Facebook is a necessary evil in this case, so please let me know. I have personally watched 3 of your courses already. So yes, Jason G, I am checking on the Facebook group actually tonight. Simchia, hi Dr. Monster, do you have an MCAT course around New Jersey that is not online? If not, what test prep course do you recommend? So Simchia, yeah, my online course is online. It's accessible from anywhere. It's great. What test prep course do I recommend if it's not mine? I actually go into that in my course. But I actually really I think Next Step Prep is doing a good job right now, and I like Exam Cracker stuff, and I like Kaplan stuff. So anywhere in there, you can't really go wrong, but one of those 3, I like their stuff. I'm glad everybody's picking up that I got this nice haircut just to look fancy for you guys. Okay, so Praneeth asked a somewhat related question. Is the MCAT more important than the GPA? So MCAT versus GPA, it goes in the same bucket, which is academic aptitude, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this before. But your GPA and MCAT, they balance each other like a seesaw. So the worse your GPA is, the better your MCAT needs to be, and then vice versa. So if your GPA is outstanding, the MCAT really is not that important, right? You just want to do good enough so that way they don't see it as a red flag and something like, wait, they scored 0% on the MCAT? Right? So you just want to kind of balance it out. And then if you go to a school that's less competitive in terms of it's a small, like liberal arts school, it's not really known for a lot of science, then your MCAT becomes a little bit more important because they want to see that you can step up the level of competition. So the MCAT and the GPA, they just kind of, they go together. And to say one is more important, the other one is not. But what's great about the MCAT and why you should focus your energy there is it's a very quick way to improve, right, and make up for your, right, maybe subpar and sub-competitive GPA. Oh, okay. Dan N said, just kidding. I was about to studentdoctor.net Dan N. He's about to get blocked. He said, can I get into medical school with a 3.9? But then he followed up with just kidding. So we were about to be in trouble here. C. Charles said, right, step 1, put myself in position. Exactly. So Frank's exactly right. He said, buy everything that I got and get a good score. That's the deal. This guy is the best. It's truth, guys. Get everything I got. It'll help you be better. So Danny asked, hey, Dr. Andre, you said that if you study within 3 years of the BS, we can do well in the MCAT. So can we rank in the 95th to 90th percentile? So again, Danny, I'm gonna be nice today. I'm in a good mood. I had the day off today. So Danny, that's a bad question and a good question at the same time because it's all relative. So there are students who are currently in their bachelor's degree who can't do well on the MCAT. There are students who have been out of their undergrad for 15 years who can do outstanding on the MCAT. The difference is their fund of knowledge. So what is their baseline knowledge coming in? What is the foundation they have so that they can quickly ramp up in their familiarity of the material when they sit down to study? That's one. The second thing is how good are their study habits, right? So we talk about that quality of time category I was talking about earlier. These are all things that enhance the quality of your time. If you have a good knowledge foundation, if you have good study habits, if you're diligent, you have good consistency in your studying, you're studying lots of time and you can get it done over and over and over again. And if you're studying correctly, right? So all these things factor into your test score. So it doesn't matter how recently you've taken classes. I haven't taken an undergrad class in forever. I could go smoke the MCAT next week. Right? I just sit down and I would study for a week straight. I'd do 10 hours a day and I'd be fine because my fund of knowledge is strong. My study skills are very strong. So what's the issue? Does that make sense? So it's all about the quality of that time you put in, how much time you're willing to put in. So that's a bad question, but that's the answer. Okay. So eggs, yes, a clean fade absolutely helps you do well in the MCAT, right? You hear what they say, look good, feel good, right? When I look good, I can go in there and I will dominate the test, right? The MCAT, right? Ooh, I catch the MCAT off guard with this fade. You guys better recognize. I like how some of you guys are on here enough to answer other people's questions correctly. So Lord F, I thank you for answering that question correctly. That was a bad question. Type Tech, do you have any ideas to still feel like a human while dedicating a lot of time to studying? I mean 40 plus on top of other obligations. Well, if you're spending 40 plus hours a week studying in undergrad, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be studying that much. It's not required to get A's. 40 hours a week is too much. You're doing something wrong. Thank you, C. Charles. Again, directing people to the other videos that have all this stuff. And it's so funny. So all my newer videos have all these thousands of views and whatever. And then my old videos where I talk about all this. So I thought we were advancing to higher level stuff. All these basic questions are addressed in my early videos. And you guys don't go back and watch them. I go back. I have gold mine amazing videos from a year and a half ago when I first started out and it was dark and murky in the room and everything. But there's tremendous amounts of information and knowledge in those videos and they have 300 views. I don't know why, but you guys don't have again, right? We talked about wealth follows where energy goes. Well, put your energy into watching all these other videos, get some knowledge up, and the wealth will follow. All right. So Stevie K said, what's up, Dr. Pinesett? Any advice for MCAT test day preparation? Absolutely. So see, this is how well I know you guys, is that I make sure I cover everything you guys need in my courses. So I actually have a thing on test day prep, but on the day of. But the number one thing you guys can do on the actual test day, on the MCAT test day itself, a couple things. It starts with getting a good night of rest before. But one of the biggest tips, so I'll give you one tip, because I could go on for hours about the test day, but two big tips, I guess. So the first big tip is to caffeinate properly. I don't drink coffee a lot. When I drink coffee, that means I'm really tired. So a lot of times when I go out to these live events, I'm holding a coffee in my hand because I just got off a night shift and I was working all night, and now I'm speaking in front of a bunch of people, so I'll have a coffee in my hand. But if you're a person who doesn't drink coffee all the time, and then you drink a 5-hour energy the day before the day of your test, you're going to be too wired to do well. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be nervous. So don't do that to yourself. Use your caffeine properly. If you're a person who caffeinates all day, every day, then it makes no sense not to have your coffee on the day of the test. It's a big thing that people do. They all of a sudden want to change things up, right? The day of the test, be consistent. If you're not a caffeine head, don't do the caffeine. If you need the caffeine, do the caffeine. And if you are going to do the caffeine, time it properly, right? You don't want to crash right before your test. So you don't get up at 6, drink your coffee, and your test is until noon. It's not going to last you, right? Drink your coffee about an hour or 2 hours before the test. That gives it time to kick in, give you that jolt, but then it kind of settles down so you're not super jittery and you can power through the test. I said 2, so that was 1. So my second thing is have a test ritual where going into the test, you can activate yourself to get into the test-taking mindset, okay? And I have a test-taking ritual. It's on the videos. There's a video about this, so I won't go into it. But have a test day ritual where you do everything the same for every single test, so that way you can build up that association with that routine and successful test taking and positive outcomes. So C. Charles, who's actually in my MCAT course, he's also in my study course, said, how do I balance the interweaving of subjects and studying for the MCAT? And I talk about this in the MCAT course, C. Charles. So go back and watch that section where I talk about actually interweaved practice is what the section's called. Interweaved practice. And so when you guys are doing MCAT prep, the way a lot of people do it is they do one subject, and then another subject, then another subject, and they separate them all out. But actually, the research shows that what you should actually do is do interweaved practice. So you should be bouncing back and forth when you're doing questions between the different subjects, because what this requires you to do is to dig back and really get into these knowledge banks and find separate information and then kind of tie all these concepts together and pull them out for your test. And so it's much harder actually to prepare for a test this way, to bounce back and forth between different subjects. So it feels strenuous, it feels harder. So a lot of people don't do it. But when you do that, you stress yourself, you make it harder on yourself, but in a positive way that's going to fruit for you and give you better connections to do well on your test. So definitely weave all the subjects together, however it's comfortable. So I actually a lot of people like the online question banks. I don't really like the online question banks as much, because with the online question banks, you're kind of limited to their rigid structure. I actually like getting question books, and then you can actually flip and do questions in whatever order you want, and so you have much more freedom and flexibility. So that's how I would say handling different subjects. Thank you for your question. Lucas says, what is a good number of practice tests to take before taking the real MCAT? So that's a really complicated question, and I think I spent like 30 minutes on that in my MCAT course. So if you want to know the answer to that question, get my MCAT course, premedproductivity.com. Check it out, guys. It's only $99, and it's insanely good. Get it. Lord F says, is active recall a good approach for MCAT material? Essentially acting like you are teaching the material to someone else using a whiteboard. It's rather time consuming but very high yield. So Lord F, you just answered your own question. You said it's time consuming but high yield. So is it a good strategy? Absolutely. Because active learning, right, and that's what I stress in my course, active learning is going to boost your score, because if you're passively learning, you're not going to have the recall you need, because you have tons of information to remember over a long period of time at a great depth. So you're not going to be able to do that unless you can actually get into the material actively and have that sort of active studying to actually make it retainable, make it recallable, right, when you need it. So Rohan asks, and this is a good question, what does the MCAT say about you as a student? It's an excellent question. Do you want what the answer is? And this is what people try to argue. The MCAT says nothing about you as a doctor. 100% true. MCAT says nothing about how you will be as a medical student. Not so true. MCAT says nothing about who you are as a person. 100% true. The MCAT is so important to medical school admissions because it tells schools how bad you want it. Listen to what I'm saying to you guys. The MCAT is a direct reflection of how bad you want medical school. And this will be a good question to end on because it wraps around back to what I was saying in the beginning. Wealth follows where energy goes. Schools know, right, that the MCAT is very important for medical school admissions. They know this. Every pre-med in the world knows the MCAT is a major obstacle to getting into medical school. So if you, as a pre-med, didn't take the time to devote the right energy and time and focus to the MCAT, even if it meant spending 10 years to get the MCAT score because you're dumb as a sack of rocks. If you're super stupid, you're stupid, whatever. If you didn't realize you were stupid and spend 10 years studying for it, then you didn't want to go to medical school as bad as you think you do. That's the honest truth. What the MCAT shows is how bad you want to go to medical school. Because if you want to go badly, you will do whatever it takes. You will figure out whatever you got to do well on that MCAT. Whatever you got to do. When I was studying for my MCAT, I didn't study very long in terms of months and weeks, but I was putting in a solid 10 to 12 hours every single day. Because being a doctor meant everything to me. So I didn't care about going out, doing some things, 10 to 12 hours every single day, butt in chair, getting it done, putting in the work. So, I ask you guys, what does the MCAT really tell medical schools? It tells them how bad you want it. Will you put the time in? Will you put the focus in? Will you do exactly what you have to do to be great on the MCAT? Not everybody's willing to do it. Oh, I get tired and, I can't focus, so I'm just going to be putting in like 1 hour a day, and so that'll probably be okay, right? Well, no, it can't be 1 hour a day and be okay, because everybody else out there is putting in 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. So your hours don't compete. You didn't want it bad enough to suck up the pain and sit there and hammer it out. That's it. So we're going to hop off here. I'll be back at you guys in exactly I don't even know what time it is. But I need like a couple minutes to get a drink. I'm parched now. I blame Ashley T because she got me fired up on here. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight. If you guys don't know already, it's premedproductivity.com. Get there. Get in a course. Get your game on. All right? And then I'll be back to you guys in a second. And we're going to talk about who asked the question. I forget who asked the question, but that question about something about putting energy in. We're going to talk about that. So make sure whoever that was, ask that question again, because I think it's a good lead off, and we can talk about some extracurriculars and focusing our energy. So thank you guys again. Have a good night for those of you who aren't coming back for that. But people are coming back in a couple minutes. I will see you guys in a second. We'll go live again, getting at more of your questions. Thank you guys very much. Peace.